My name is Michael, and I'm 38 years old. I've been working as a programmer at my current company for many years. I've always enjoyed this job. I love programming and find daily fulfillment in it. Initially, there were challenges, but over time, my anxieties turned into confidence. I've come to believe that sticking with one thing for a long time is important. That's what I've always told the younger folks at work. Right now, I'm just happy to be here, so I keep going. Maybe there will be chances to move up, or maybe someone else will offer me a job. But I'm already 38, and I feel like I'll be at this company forever. I doubt there's any chance for further career advancement. That's what I was thinking when the incident happened. A new department head joined our company, a woman named Mila. She's 37, and I'd admired her for becoming a department head at such a young age. The first time I saw her, she had an aura of competence. However, she was very cold towards people. The first words Mila ever said to me were, "Are you only a middle school grad? Too dumb, aren't you?" She must have noticed that from my resume. How far back did she look? But the harassment didn't stop there. Middle school grads are a hindrance to the company. Just disappear. Even though I apologized, Mila wouldn't forgive me. The harassment got worse day by day until I wasn't even allowed to work. "You're not fit for the main office work," she said, even though this was the job I'd been doing all along. Mila wasn't willing to listen. Was it because I'm a middle school grad? But working here, I hardly ever thought about that. My education is in the past, and nowadays, no one cares about where you went to school. It's not even a topic of discussion. A week after being barred from work, Mila called me in. How does it feel to be unable to work? I felt like I was barely alive. Did Mila know that work was my passion? If she was deliberately taking it away from me, that would be the worst. She told me, "Being a middle school grad and incompetent, you're unnecessary at headquarters. Choose between being fired or demoted to a remote location. The lol. Then fire me." At that moment, I finally understood what Mila wanted. She wanted to drive me out of the company. That's why she took my work away and created an unwelcoming atmosphere for me. Thinking back, Mila was harsh on other employees who were also middle school grads. We were told every day how incompetent we were for being in headquarters. How much distress must everyone have been feeling? There were many victims besides me. Ever since Mila arrived, the company atmosphere has clearly deteriorated. It shifted from a friendly environment to one that prioritizes educational background. I remember when Mila asked me, "Why are there so many middle school grads here?" Well, I never really paid attention to it. I didn't know the educational backgrounds of my colleagues because I had no interest in it. So when she asked, all I could give was a vague response, and for that, I was scolded. It's no surprise you're not aware of it, given your incompetence. I'm sorry. Her look of disdain was infuriating. Who does Mila think she is? Could she say the Michael if she were a high school dropout? Besides, I wasn't allowed to work here anyway. If I can't do the job that gives me a sense of purpose, then there's no point in staying. Even if I were reassigned to a remote location, Mila would still be my boss. I absolutely didn't want to continue working under someone like her. Thank you for everything. You don't have to come back ever again. That's what I thought should be my line. I never want to work with someone like her again, let alone follow her orders, even if she is my boss. Mila is younger and lacks manners. There's nothing about her I respect. I completed the handover documents that day and left the company. Actually, since being harassed by Mila, I had seriously considered changing jobs. I believed that with my years of experience at this company, I could move to a different one. In fact, I had been progressing on things in secret from her. After leaving the company, I had a few places to stop by, so I quickly made my way home. After finishing my errands, I felt incredibly relieved, thinking I had finally said goodbye to that company. The next day, I got an unexpected call from Mila. Wondering what she could possibly want now made me angry, but this might be my chance to say what I've been thinking to Mila for the last time. I decided to take it positively. When I went to the company, Mila had a particularly gloomy look on her face. I wondered what was wrong, but I didn't really want to pry. What is this? Mila showed me the handover documents I had prepared the day before. Her face was very pale. Even seeing her like that, I couldn't feel worried. What's wrong? Is there a problem with these documents? I asked her calmly. Then she said, "Do you understand the meaning of all this?" Of course, I understand everything. I made it after all. There's no way I wouldn't understand something I created myself. The handover documents were about programming that I had developed. It's written in technical terms, but it shouldn't be that difficult. However, Mila seemed to be having trouble. She kept looking at the documents and making puzzled faces. Is something wrong? I asked her. I don't understand any of this at all. What are these documents? Mila threw the documents at me. I couldn't believe she treated something someone made like that. But she just kept getting angrier. You did this on purpose to make it incomprehensible for me, didn't you? That's unbelievable. Anyone working with programming should understand it. I thought you would, but it seems Mila didn't know at all. I had assumed she knew everything because she always acted so superior. I even thought she wanted to fire me to take control. But I was wrong. Mila didn't even understand the terminology, let alone programming. I started to get angry again. I was finally free from Mila and ready to start a new path, but here she was, troubling me again. You made it too complicated, so I had no choice but to call you in. If you don't understand, you should have said so earlier. I couldn't help but blurt out what I was really thinking. It's her fault for not knowing, always acting high and mighty. It's not my problem if she gets upset. This is the trouble with people who are too proud. Does she even realize what her role as department head entails? Whether you're a superior or a subordinate, if something is unclear, you should ask. But Mila probably couldn't bring herself to rely on her subordinates because she thinks too highly of herself. If she didn't want to ask me, why call me in? There are plenty of other employees. Why summon me specifically? Her pride is Everest-sized, and that's not a compliment. She's been harsh on those around her, so it's likely she couldn't bring herself to ask questions, which is why she called me, someone who had already left the company. But there seemed to be another reason too. Your way of speaking sounds so sarcastic. It had to be you, no one else, she said. Being relied on by Mila in such situations isn't pleasing. If she was going to rely on me, she should have just asked directly instead of letting me go. Why did it have to be me? I asked her calmly. Deep down, I just wanted to leave as soon as possible. I wished she would get to the point without beating around the bush. All the employees said they didn't understand the meaning of these documents. Mila looked desperate. It wasn't just Mila. Even the other employees didn't understand. I was surprised by this fact. No one else but me could take over this work. Mila must have realized how much she usually looked down on her employees. She never noticed their hard work. What she valued most was educational background. She probably never cared about who was doing what kind of work, whether as a department head or even as a person. I lost my temper. So you called me back to this company because only I can understand it. Mila was hitting the desk, angry, even though this was all due to her usual negligence. Programming can be learned by adults if they put their mind to it. Some things require years of experience, but the basics should be understandable. Mila doesn't try to learn on her own and relies entirely on me. It's astonishing how she looks down on others, but when push comes to shove, she clings to them. Without me, the company's programming would be completely incapacitated. Did Mila even know my role in the company? I started to doubt it. She seemed only interested in herself, so she probably didn't know what I was doing, which is why she so easily took my job away using my education as an excuse. I'm sure the company was greatly inconvenienced during that period, likely suffering significant losses. But Mila didn't notice because she didn't know what my job entailed. I decided to ask her directly. Did you know what I was doing in the company? She immediately shook her head. It was just as I thought. I had no interest in what a middle school grad was doing. That's only natural, isn't it? Her defiance was incredibly infuriating, but I was no longer associated with this company, and dropping a bombshell now might just be fair game. Mila would be floored if she knew this. Suddenly, the situation started to feel amusing. It looked like I wouldn't be leaving the company premises for a while. I found myself enjoying the thought of striking back at Mila. I was in charge of all the company's programming. This was an undeniable fact. With years of experience, I managed the programming for the company. I was trusted by my peers and had many tasks that only I could handle. That's why I found my work fulfilling and wanted to stay with the company for a long time. Mila destroyed all of that. If I'm not needed, I'm the type to back down without any regrets. It's better for everyone if I'm in a place where I'm needed. So, I thought there was no longer any value for me here. I had made peace with that decision, and it hasn't changed. As expected, Maya looked like she was about to collapse when she heard my story. No way? You? You? The sheer volume of her voice took me by surprise, so much so that I was startled. It clearly showed how little attention she'd been paying inside the company. There was a mountain of work that only I could handle, but you didn't notice, did you? Mila nodded firmly. No wonder things went downhill after I joined the team. To think it was all because of you. It's infuriating. Mila always tries to pin the blame on someone else. It's not my fault. It's hers for taking my work away. Would any of this have happened if Mila hadn't become the department head in the first place? So, you didn't realize how crucial my work was to the company. I pressed, cornering her with my words. She yelled back, "You didn't say a word about it." And to think that nobody else knew either. I wondered if she was losing her mind. She probably didn't want to admit she'd done something wrong, especially since she made a mess of things the moment she became department head and caused the company to lose money. I decided to ask around about a few employees who knew a bit about programming, but Mila came out with something outrageous. I thought they were all incompetent dropouts, so I fired them all. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't help but yell at the sheer awfulness of it. But since she's no longer my boss, there's no need to hold back. Besides, I'm older and have much more experience from my previous job. I don't want to be lectured by a department head who knows nothing about the work I do. Why are you yelling all of a sudden? You're one of my incompetent subordinates, aren't you? She snapped, questioning my attitude. But being yelled at by someone like her doesn't scare or bother me anymore. I just want to talk back to an ignorant and incompetent department head. She should fully realize her own disgrace. She's the least suitable person for this company, and she needs to reflect on the foolish things she's done. However, Mila resisted more than I expected. You've been looking down on me all along, haven't you? You did this on purpose because I wasn't aware of your work, didn't you? I shook my head instinctively. There's no benefit in framing someone like Mila. Besides, I thought I was on top of everything at work, so it's Mila who's at fault. But I didn't get a chance to fight back. Your silence must mean it's true, huh? You want to put all the blame on me, she accused. It's not that I'm silent by choice. Mila has been going on a monologue, completely disregarding others. With the way she talks, I don't think anyone can get a word in edgewise. That's probably why the employees she fired couldn't resist and ended up quitting. As someone who was also fired, I couldn't help but feel a lot of sympathy. While I was sighing, Mila came back with more retaliation. You think you're so important, but you're mistaken. Isn't she the one who's mistaken? I've never thought of myself as important, and that's better than her way of thinking. I finally got a chance to talk back, but it seemed like my words didn't reach her ears. Isn't it true that the whole mess started because you never spoke up in the first place? And yet, I'm the one who's been living a nightmare. This person always wants to blame someone else. If you had explained the job from the start, I wouldn't have fired you, she said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all the times I've been belittled, now this. The company's loss is my loss too. And it all happened after I became the department head. Maya looked down and sighed. In the end, she only thinks about what's a loss for her. I feel foolish for even momentarily hoping that Mila recognized my work. If it had been beneficial for her, I would have been fired and simply bid farewell. Life just doesn't go smoothly, does it? Just my luck to become the department head at this time. Now Mila began to limit her bad luck. Because I became the department head, I had to deal with a middle school grad. This has taken a toll on my mental health. How are you going to take responsibility for this? She screamed. She seemed like a monster in human form. It's a nightmare that someone like her could become a department head. Getting yelled at out of nowhere sure is startling. I couldn't help but retort to Mila, even though now seemed like the worst time to rub her the wrong way. I couldn't contain my anger toward Mila. What do you know? Do you have any idea what I've gone through as a department head? From my perspective, Mila seemed quite satisfied with her work. Her subordinates always complied, and the employees she wanted to fire were at her mercy. It was like the company was subject to Mila's dictatorship. The moment things started going south, everything became a source of dissatisfaction for her. Then, out of the blue, Mila made an absurd suggestion. You should just come back to the company. Then everything will work out, right? What? After all the bullying and hurt she caused, now she says I should come back. Who would agree to such a ridiculous proposition? For the first time in a long while, I found myself shouting from the bottom of my heart. My own reaction took me by surprise. If I don't keep myself in check, I might end up just like Mila, a monstrous person. Why are you suddenly screaming? You're giving me a fright, Mila asked, her tone only making me angrier. The one who's lost their mind is you, isn't it? I blurted out. I felt utterly pathetic, but no matter what I said, I had no intention of returning to the company. It was time to speak my mind fully. I'm no longer under Mila's thumb, and I don't care if I'm disliked anymore. Why are you shouting again? Mila's condescension only fueled my resolve. I will never return to the company, no matter what you say. Why not? I'm telling you, it's okay to come back, she said, still patronizing. It's because you're there. Besides, the company doesn't need me anymore. I'm saying I'll let you come back, and you're upset with me. She had no clue what she'd done wrong. You judged employees solely on their educational background and disrupted the harmony within the company. I fired back. I disrupted the company's harmony. Maya looked defensive, but I wasn't done. Her actions were serious. She unilaterally fired employees who didn't finish high school, just like me. Many of them were young with their futures ahead of them, and she crushed those futures. I couldn't forgive her for that. I thought you were fired because you understood the meaning of programming, she said, trying to twist the narrative. Bringing that up again, I wasn't backing down. I'll even retract calling you just a middle school grad if you come back. But what's said can't be unsaid. Words can't be taken back, nor can the damage they cause. Had you finally understood how I felt? I asked, but I knew the answer. There's no way I could understand that, she said, showing no sign of remorse. It was time for the final blow. I've already secured a job at a major corporation, I announced. At the mention of the company's name, Mila's face went pale. When did you manage to get into such a big company? She stammered. I laughed heartily. Ever since you started harassing me, I've been visiting this corporation several times. They happily hired me after seeing my years of programming experience. I'll be starting there after I leave this company, and they're even willing to wait until then. It's a company at the forefront of programming in Japan, and I'm confident I can advance my career there. I successfully secured a job, so I have no more business here, I stated coldly. How can someone like you, a middle school grad, get a job at such a big company? Mila was furious, insisting it was impossible. Oh, I thought we weren't using the phrase middle school grad anymore. You really are incompetent, aren't you? Incompetent, she repeated. I nodded. You don't try to understand your employees at all, which makes you an incompetent department head. Of course, you're also dragging the company down. I've never encountered such a terrible department head since I started working. You're the first, and hopefully the last. Incompetent, she muttered. Anyway, I said, I will never return. And with that, I left the company. Dealing with Mila any longer would have driven me insane, so I couldn't wait to get out of there as quickly as possible. Later, I heard that Mila ended up managing all the programming alone, but since she never really understood it, the company's management rapidly deteriorated. It seems the employees collectively blamed her, and with her high pride, she couldn't bring herself to apologize. She eventually chose to resign on her own. It was all her doing, so I can't feel bad about what happened to her. Having secured a job at a new company, I'm now living a fulfilling life. The employees are kind, the environment is welcoming, and there are many programming geniuses here, allowing me to strive and improve. I'm once again reassured that joining this company was the right decision, and I wholeheartedly want to continue doing my best.